Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we will review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Sukkah, pages 32 to 38, Lamed Bet through Lamed Chet. 32. The Gemara here is concerned with identifying the kapot marim, which we refer to as the lulav and we know as a palm frond. However, the Gemara suggests ve'ema kufra, maybe it's a palm shoot, which happens to be sharp and thorny. Abaye says it cannot be the kufra. Why? Because the Tanakh tells us all the paths of the Torah are pleasantness, and all of its ways are ways of peace. So the concept is that there is no mitzvah of the Torah whose fulfillment involves an inordinate amount of pain or suffering or inconvenience. And since a thorny item held in one's hand feels terrible, it must be that the fulfillment of kapot marim, of the arba minim, must be in a way which is fairly pleasant, namely what we call a lulav. Lamed Gimel, 33. Tana Rabbanan. Lulav mitzvah la'agado, v'im la'agado kasher. There is a commandment, a mitzvah, to bound together in some kind of a package the lulav and hadas and arava, 3 out of the 4 species. But if you did not bound it together, im la'agado kasher, it's post facto kosher. You did the mitzvah. Money. Whose opinion is this? Rabbi Yehuda, ki la'agado my kasher. If you want to say it's the viewpoint of Rabbi Yehuda, then post facto, why should it be valid fulfillment of the mitzvah if you did not bind the species? He holds it's 100% obligatory. V'i Rabbanan, and if you want to say it's the rabbis, my mitzvah ka'avid, then what mitzvah is there by the fact that you did bound the species together? Olam Rabbanan, really, it's the viewpoint of the rabbis. A mitzvah mishum zekeli ve'anvehu, and the fact that they say it's a mitzvah, it means it's not that it's 100% obligatory. Rather, that it's ideal, it's preferable, lechatchila, to do the mitzvah in a beautiful fashion, to glorify God with a beautiful performance of mitzvot, and a bound lulav package looks better than when it's loose and not together. Lamed Daled, 34. Rabbi Yishmael Omer, Shlosha hadasim, shtei aravot, lulav echad v'trog echad. Rabbi Yishmael says we take 3 myrtle, 2 willow, 1 palm frond, and 1 citron. That in fact is the halacha, that's what we do. However, Rabbi Tarfon Omer, Keshem shelulav echad, vetrog echad, kachadas echad v'arava echad. Rabbi Tarfon was of the view that there's 1 of each. 1 lulav, 1 etrog, 1 myrtle branch of the hadasim, and 1 willow arava. Clearly we do not hold in that fashion. The halacha is like Rabbi Yishmael. Lamed Hey, 35. Etrog shel demai. What's the story with using an etrog that is demai for the sake of the mitzvah on Sukkot? Demai is produce that you purchase from an am haaretz and whose tithed status is unclear because we do not completely trust the am haaretz, the unlettered masses, to follow the laws of Truma and Maser. And so, under rabbinic law, you have to take certain emoluments and separate them in order to justify using this demai. Well, in advance of separating out those Trumot Ma'asrot, what is the law of using this etrog for the mitzvah of Sukkot? You're not eating it, but you're using it. So Beit Shammai posted, Beit Hillel Machshin, Beit Shammai says you're not allowed to use it. Beit Hillel says you can use it. Now, in fact, one of the rules governing the use of an etrog is if you were allowed to eat it, you could use it for the mitzvah. If you were not allowed halachically to eat it, you couldn't use it for the mitzvah. So now we have to ask, how could Beit Hillel justify using the demai etrog for the mitzvah? After all, I'm not allowed to eat it under rabbinic law until I separate some emoluments. So the Gemara gives an answer. My time Beit Hillel. Beit Hillel says, well, if you wanted to, you could declare all your property ownerless, hefker, and thereby render yourself into a poor person. And poor people can be fed demai, at least from the viewpoint of Beit Hillel. Beit Shammai disagrees. Beit Hillel says that the traveling band of soldiers, the achsania, and the aniyim, the poor people, can be fed untithed demai. So since you could render yourself in a position where you're kosher for demai, so therefore even now, without having done so, you could use it as for your mitzvah purposes. Lamed Vav, 36. What's the largest kosher etrog? Uvegadol, even if it takes 2 hands to hold 1 etrog, it's a huge etrog, you need 2 hands to hold it, that's kosher. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Maseb Rabbi Akiva Shebal Bet HaKnesset Vetrogol Tefo. There was one time an incident where Rabbi Akiva came to the synagogue and he had a huge etrog. It was so big he was carrying it on his shoulder. Amar lo Rabbi Yehuda Misham Rayas. Rabbi Yehuda said, you want to use that as proof that even a larger etrog than one which is in two hands can be used because Rabbi Akiva had one on his shoulder, that's not a good proof. Af hem amrulo ein ze hadar, because in that incident, what did the sages say to Rabbi Akiva? They didn't accept the fact that it's kosher. They rejected its kashrut. They said, that etrog on your shoulder is so big, it's not beautiful. In fact, it's disgusting. It's not hadar. So you do not fulfill your mitzvah. Thus, there's no proof that you could have a lulav, that you could have an etrog larger than the size that fits in two hands. Lamed Zayin, 37. Amar Rabba, lulav biyamin etrog b'smol. You hold the four species in your two hands. In one hand is going to be the etrog. In another hand is going to be the lulav package that also contains the hadassim and aravot. Which goes in which hand? So Rabbah said the lulav goes in the right hand and the etrog goes in the left hand. Why? Well, my time, there is a strong preference that the more important item go in your right hand. What's more important, the lulav package or the etrog? The answer is, the lulav has 3 out of the 4 species, the etrog is only 1 of the 4 species. So 3 out of 4 is more important than 1 out of the 4. Therefore, put the lulav in your right hand. Lamed Chet, 38. Misha Baba Derech, a person who was traveling along the road. He didn't have a lulav, it was the holiday of Sukkot, it's Chol HaMoed, he's traveling, he has no lulav. When he gets home, Yitzal Shulchano, you shall take the lulav on your dining room table. Meaning, ideally you would take the lulav in hand during the synagogue services for the Hallel. That's what the Gemara would prefer. However, you didn't have it at that time, or you weren't in the synagogue services. So, worst comes to worst, in your own home, the privacy of your own home, on your own dining room table, you'll take the lulav. Lo natal shachrit, if you didn't take it in the morning, you told Ben Harabayim, do it later in the day, in the afternoon. Shkolayam kasher lulav, because all day long is kosher for the fulfillment of the mitzvah of lulav. Meaning, from the beginning of dawn, the beginning of the day, the crack of dawn, all the way until nightfall. The nighttime is not kosher for the fulfillment of lulav and etrog. But if you didn't do shacharit, all the way until evening. Everyone have a great week.